Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
We've had a lot of stories lately about rental car companies screwing up, and I don't know if it's the time, just so hard to get good help, or if there is something inherently screwed up about the rental car model. But this is a little different, but it sounds like it's related on some level. Luann sent this, thanks a lot, from news5cleveland.com. Joe Paganakis wrote this. Cleveland woman given speeding ticket on missing rental car that she returned a month earlier. Yes, she had a rental car. She returned it. Later on, they sent her a note and said, by the way, you got to pay this speeding ticket that was incurred by somebody after you turned the car back in. Now, they are then saying that the rental car is missing, and somehow that's the screw up, but it got caught on a traffic camera doing something illegal. So the woman from Cleveland just can't seem to figure out what's going on because she rented a Toyota Camry from Budget near Hopkins International Airport back on March 12th. Budget then sent the woman a speeding ticket for $180 issued by Newburgh Heights Police on April 14th, and that was on the car that she returned March 18th. Now, assuming time works the same way in Ohio as it does everywhere else, she had turned the car in before the car got a ticket. The Newburgh Heights ticket shows the Camry on speed camera heading westbound on Harvard Avenue at East 58th Street, and was ticketed for doing 37 and a 25. Budget then forwarded the ticket to the woman, creating just another frustrating chapter to a missing car that has been going on for more than 3 months. A missing car mystery, they call it. This was a terrible, terrible experience. It's getting worse by the day. It's turning out to be a nightmare. She said, you couldn't even imagine. It's making me sick. I mean, it's making me physically ill. Back in April, the woman contacted News 5 after Budget sent her a notice in the mail that she had rented a car but had not returned it. So they started off with the old you didn't return your car trick. She also received multiple calls and voicemail messages from Budget saying that she once again had rented the $25,000 vehicle and that the car had not been returned and was missing. Now, to make matters worse, she reported Budget then rang up more than $5,000 in charges on her credit card on the time that she did not have the car. She told News 5 she was never given any billing on the charges. I received nothing, no kind of billing, no type of itemization for those charges or for. I can't even explain how upset I was. She said she called Budget many times in an attempt to solve this, got no results. So News 5 contacted Budget at their headquarters, and they quickly responded and issued a statement. Following an initial review of events, we have apologized and refunded her the additional charges. We are carrying out further internal investigations to ensure this doesn't happen again. But the woman told News 5 the charges on her credit cards have still not been removed, and now she's facing a speeding ticket on a rental vehicle that even Budget confirms was returned weeks earlier. News 5 again contacted Budget, and News 5 learned the credit to her credit card will be posting in the coming days. Newburgh Heights Police confirmed the speeding ticket has now been paid by the company. The company would not give any information to Channel 5 on who may have been behind the wheel of the missing Camry when it was caught speeding in Newburgh Heights. News 5 is still waiting for an official statement from the company. Remember, they got an initial review statement. They just didn't get an actual follow-up statement. Meanwhile, the woman again had a warning and advice for consumers who are using a credit or debit card when renting a vehicle. I would absolutely, highly urge people to indefinitely put an alert on their credit card company or their debit card if you're renting a rental car. I actually missed a couple of days of work going down to the Cleveland Hopkins Airport trying to resolve this matter. And so it's an interesting twist. It's similar to the other people who had the cars reported stolen and reported them to police, except here, no one called the police on her, but a ticket was issued and they sent it to her and said, well, it's yours, obviously, because you have this car you won't return. And she says, I've got the paperwork to prove it. And I will admit, when I was a younger person, before I went to law school, I was not one of the people who kept receipts for everything. I was not. And one of the ways that changed was a couple times I had clients come into me and tell me that they'd bought gas someplace and gotten bad gas in their car. So I started becoming one of the people who kept gas receipts for a little while, just to be on the safe side. I understand if you have a debit card or a credit card and you get a receipt, or even if you don't keep the paper one, there might still be a record, but that's not the point. The point is that I've now seen enough stuff go wrong as an attorney that I hang on to my receipts for a while. So if I check out of a hotel, bring the receipt with me. Drop off a rental car, save the receipt. I save my paper for just a little while. I actually will throw it in my desk drawer, And every now and then I go through now, my desk drawer's getting messy. I dig through it, I throw the stuff away if I don't need it. And so here, she dropped off the rental car and she saved her paperwork so she could prove that she did that. Now, obviously, they screwed up, rented the car to somebody else, or someone stole it, and the car's out there being driven by somebody else. And since she was the last person that they had who had rented it, they assumed, well, it must be her. She was the last person to have rented it, even though she brought it back in and dropped it off. But I've had issues, and I've said before, I've done 99% of my car rentals, and I used to travel a lot. Not as much these days, but I rented a car in November, for instance. But I've traveled and rented cars 99% of the time from the same company, Enterprise. And I'm not advertising for them. I'm simply saying I've had good experiences with them. But I can remember one occasion where I was flying and I was actually renting a car in Detroit, okay? And long story, but I'm renting a car in Detroit. And I didn't go through Enterprise. Mistake number one. So I'm standing in this really long line, and as I'm snaking my way to the front of the line, I realized what's going on. There's only one person at the counter, and she's giving every single one the sales pitch for the insurance. And she was telling them that Michigan law requires you to buy the insurance that they sell you for the rental car. And people ahead of me are going, well, I guess if I got to buy it, I got to buy it. And this woman is making a killing because she's lying to all these people. And so when I get the front, she goes, I see your reservation, and you'll be buying the insurance, right? I said, no. And she goes, well, you're required by state law to buy it. I said, no, I'm not. She goes, yeah, Michigan state law requires you to buy it. If you don't buy it, you can't rent the car. And you have to trust me on this. I almost never play the I'm an attorney card. Almost never, because it usually makes a conversation go south very quickly. People don't like it when somebody goes, well, I'm an attorney. But when she said, it's the law in Michigan, you must buy our insurance. I had my wallet in my hand. I pulled my business card out. I put it in the counter. I go, I'm an attorney. Which law is that now? And she goes, fine. And she rented me a car. But the point is that she just ripped off like 100 people ahead of me. Every single one. She forced them to buy the insurance. And I guarantee you that her boss, because she was the manager, I checked her name card, her boss had told her, if you sell insurance, you get a slice. You get some kind of bonus for selling insurance. And so when she sold the insurance to every single person, she was like having the day of her life. I mean, I'd be scared to find out how much money she made that day. But the funny thing is, the people behind me heard what I said. So I suspect I put a little dent in her sales plan. But why is she doing that? Money. And is it wrong for her to say that? Of course it is. Would her bosses have known she's probably doing that? I'm sure they did. There's no other way that you can look across all of the car rental counters you have in America and say, okay, most of them have a sell-through rate on the insurance of like 1 in 10, 1 in 5. Here, some woman's got 99.9% sales through, and the only one she didn't get was the attorney. Now, it wouldn't say it in the paperwork, but they'd figure out one person stuck their guns and said, you don't know what you're talking about. But, so the car rental business is a weird one. And it is strange. I remember, I may have mentioned briefly recently, that I had a job for a couple of weeks one summer as a porter for a rental car company that no longer exists. Okay, it was in Southfield, Michigan. And I used to drive around the cars. So if somebody had a car dealership, for instance, dropping a car off that had been wrecked, they needed a rental car, I'd drive over, pick them up, bring them back to the place, and they'd sign the paperwork and they'd be gone. So I did the shuttling that stuff around. And I remember at the time, thinking to myself, how expensive are these cars? And we're renting them out back then. It's like $10, $15 a day kind of thing. Thinking to myself, what a strange business model. But of course, if they make enough to make it worth their while, it works out. But there is that unusual concept that you're letting somebody rent something so valuable for such a small amount of money that I can see why it makes people paranoid, even at today's prices, right? If I rent a car for 3 days for $150 someplace, I'm still controlling a very valuable asset of somebody else's relatively inexpensively. And I understand that. So they do everything they can to watch out for this stuff, including if you're out driving around one of their cars and you get a ticket, they'll make you pay it. Problem, of course, is if it ain't you. Who had this car and how did this happen? This is strange. So the Cleveland woman is given a speeding ticket on a missing rental car. She had returned a month earlier. And it's been resolved now, sort of, because as of the writing of the story, she hadn't got her money refunded for the overage they charged her for having the car passed when she turned it in. So news5cleveland.com. published. The story written by Joe Paganakis. Luann sent it to me. Thanks a lot, Luann. Questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. It took a while for her to figure out she could run, but when she did, she was long, long gone.